Hello, friends, and welcome to your Daily Detroit. It is Wednesday, October 19th, 2022, coming to you from the beautiful Motor City. I'm Jer Stays, and across the table from me is
Cheyenne Serini.
Good to see you.
It is great to see you too.
It has been a minute.
It has, yes.
What have you been up to?
So last Friday, I had the opportunity to go check out the DSO, the Detroit Symphony Orchestra.
Now, you love the orchestra and classical music, and let's share why.
I do love classical music. I was a band nerd.
Let's
Be
fair.
I don't play any instruments anymore.
What you don't know is here at the studio, sometimes there will all of a sudden just be band music playing, and we always know who it is.
It is always me. It's usually just me playing random classical music or any kind of music, really. I love music. So I was given the opportunity to go to an morning performance at the DSO for their classical series and any opportunity for me to see Mozart.
And it gets you a chance to get away from the kids and the family. Not that you don't love them.
No, but it was nice to be able to be an adult and go and do something that I enjoy also, but for work as well.
So what did you learn?
So I learned I did also after the performance, we got to go on stage at the DSO at Orchestra Hall, which is a big deal, and flash back to when I was in high school. My high school would perform there. Our band and orchestra and also choir would do spring performances at Orchestra Hall. So I got to go behind the scenes. I got to go on the stage and have a fireside chat with Yoder Brigamini, the musical director of the DSO, and also Eric Ronmick, who's the CEO of the DSO.
And we talked to Eric on the show a little bit ago when the season kicked off.
Exactly. So they were just telling us their inspiration for this season. And one of the things that they were talking about was how great it is to have an audience back at the Orchestra Hall. One of the other things that they've brought back, they have the classical series, the pop series, and the jazz series. But one of the other things that they have is the children's series, the young people shows.
Oh, so this is part of why you went.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they are bringing back the young people's performances, which is going to be bringing on their newest associate conductor, Nazir McFadden, who is a young, I think they said he's 22 years old.
There really seems to be this commitment to bringing in some new blood. And then also, I know from my grandmother being exposed to the orchestra helped me love it a lot more as I got older. It's all about what you see. And the thing is, it's important to make those bridges because it's sometimes hard for people to access, or they think it's hard for them to access.
I think it's one of those things where I'm excited, looking forward to some of these young people shows to bring my almost 8-year-old to a performance. I know in December, they're going to be doing Tale of the Firebird. And then in March, they're going to be doing Symphonic Superheroes.
Ooh.
I think we might be taking the kid to, and maybe even my husband, who is not that fond of classical music.
But he does love superheroes.
He does love superheroes. So maybe I can get him to go on that. That's where I've been, getting my culture up, enjoying my time. I know you have a big trip coming.
I do. I have an announcement, actually. Usually we'd share where I've been. I will on Friday, but today I want to share where I'm going.
Yes.
Me and engineer Randy, unfortunately, Fletcher has a personal obligation that won't let him go on this trip, but we are going to Memphis to cover the playoff match in person at AutoZone Park this weekend. Thank you to our friends at your Metro Detroit Edward Jones Financial Advisors. We will be able to do this. The hotel is booked as of today. I can't tell you how excited I am to go on a trip again, doing some sports coverage and bringing this to you all. We're going to be, sharing stuff on social media. The show will not stop here, obviously. We won't let that happen. But there's going to be so much. And if you are listening to this and you happen to want to catch up for lunch or something like that, DM us, get in touch, dailydetroit@gmail.com. I think it's so great to be able to chronicle this team, Detroit's winning professional sports team.
I know. I'm kind of jealous that you guys are going on this trip because if I were going to Memphis, I'd be going over to Graceland and reliving my young 8-year-old self's life.
I went 20 years ago.
Yeah. I was 8 when I went.
Okay. Yeah. I was 20 something when I went, but it was fun. I think we're skipping it this time. I think this is going to be about food and drinks and checking out downtown Memphis. We're able to get a great deal on a hotel room in downtown Memphis. I want to see the Stax Museum. And
Oh, that
all
would
about
be
like,
great.
yeah, like the whole like Southern Motown kind of vibe. I'm all into that. So there's also the cultural component too, because Memphis and Detroit, they like have a lot of ties.
I mean, I'm excited to see where you guys head and what you guys get up to over on our socials. And then obviously when
Which
you guys
is
come back.
The Daily Detroit on Twitter, Daily Detroit on Facebook, Daily Detroit on Instagram. You're going to see a lot of me and Engineer Randy once we get on the road.
Yep.
Any ideas? Again, I want to hear all your ideas for where we should go, especially cocktails, that sort of thing. All right, let's get into the news. This week starts work on the road diet for Woodward through Ferndale and Pleasant Ridge. This is a real reimagining. They're going to be taking out a lane in both directions. They're going to be adding and fixing pedestrian crossings, putting in some protected bike lanes, making bus islands. This is a big project. It's going to run about $9 million, a little more than half funded by MDOT, and then others through the city of Ferndale, Pleasant Ridge, some other things going on to really look at Woodward in a different way. To give people context, Woodward's traffic has actually been going down over the last few years, even before the pandemic. And it's important for businesses and such. Like if you go through Ferndale, you go through Pleasant Ridge, it has a different feel than much of the Metro Detroit region. It is not expanses of suburbia. It's almost like got a small town kind of feel. And changing Woodward, I think, will help the businesses along there and the pedestrian connections. Because one of the things we've learned from all of our fabulous listeners in the Ferndale, Pleasant Ridge, and Oak Park area, of which we have quite a few, is that there's something very valuable of what they've chosen to live and chosen to do around there. Now, I wanted you to share your ideas, Cheyenne, because you are, although not in Ferndale, you're through that intersection all the time, through Woodward all the time. I know some people are frustrated because the work that's going to be happening starting now and then kind of taking a break and then picking up again in the spring through the fall of next year will feel very inconvenient for folks. But what are your thoughts on the project? Because you live nearby.
I do live nearby. And I also used to live in Ferndale right off of Woodward many, many years ago. But still, I am very familiar with that area. I am in favor of it. When you get off of that overpass, when you're going over 8 Mile on Woodward, you know, people are speeding through there. And then you have that 35 mile an hour speed limit through Ferndale. Even though there is that in place, people still are speeding through Woodward.
Mm-hmm.
And
haven't there been a number of accidents with people turning there at 9 Mile and things like that?
yeah, there have been a plethora of pedestrian accidents.
A plethora of pedestrian pain?
Yeah, unfortunately, because people are speeding through those intersections and Woodward is super wide.
It's like freeway wide over there.
It is like at 9 Mile in Woodward. I had to cross it every single day when I would take the bus home. And it was like Frogger sometimes. And there is like no way, unless you are running through the crosswalk, for you to make it in one light.
No, don't even try.
Crossing.
Don't even try.
Yeah, because it's so wide.
And then there's the bar district there for the weekends, which adds a whole nother layer to things. You know, there is this constant pressure in Metro Detroit and across America about are streets for cars or for people? And personally, I'm someone who comes strongly on the streets for people side. And let me tell you why. Like, I'm not against a good road trip. Like, I'm going to be driving to Memphis. That is going to require a car. It is what it is, right? It's going to be fun. But when it comes to a city center, which is now what Ferndale is and Pleasant Ridge is and Oak Park, like it's its own city center, its own gravity that it has now, you have to treat things different. And if you're going to commute through, I don't think Woodward is your best bet. I mean, if you want to go fast as you can, I think that it's sending a message that if you're going to go through Ferndale, use Ferndale, be a part of Ferndale, spend money in Ferndale and Pleasant Ridge. It sends a message to the rest of the region that this is different, because I think so much of the region is really built on that super wide strode concept where you've got these wide roads you could never cross with people, that a car is the minimum of what you must have. And I think it's a very active choice by the governments of Ferndale and Pleasant Ridge and the areas around there to say that we want to be different and that we want to be a community that welcomes that kind of connection. And there aren't that many of them in Metro Detroit. I think this sends sends a pretty big signal.
I think so. I think that if you want to live off of a 5-lane in each direction road, you can go out to, Warren and Mound Road.
There's plenty of places you can do that.
Exactly.
Here.
And I see it all the time on like the Ferndale forums that I'm in about people who are like big mad about this road diet. And they're like, well, why can't the people who are riding their bike go down another street? Okay, well, why can't they go down Woodward? It is not safe to bike down Woodward right now through Ferndale.
Well, some would argue that if you're trying to cross the street, it's not safe to cross it.
No.
Which isn't good for the kinds of businesses that are developing there. Like, not everybody wants to live next to a strip mall.
No. And that's why people pick Ferndale.
Right. Like, if you want to live next to a strip mall, you've got options in this region.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Lots of options.
In all directions.
Right. If you don't, you've got, downtown Plymouth. You've got parts of downtown West Dearborn. You've got the Grosse Points.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Ferndale. Maybe a couple other places I haven't mentioned. Hit me up, dailydetroit@gmail.com. Northville. I don't want to leave out Northville because we got some listeners in Northville.
Maybe Mount Clemens if we want to hit in St. Clair Shores.
Yes, parts of St. Clair Shores.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still, there aren't that many places. Most places, it's going to be giant roads, huge whatever. And if that's your vibe,
great.
You know what? There's plenty of places for you. I applaud Ferndale for being bold in doing this because the naysayers, I think, are going to be proven wrong on this one. I've had a lot of disagreements, even in other podcasts, where people have said, we can't ever change. Well, you know what? Metro Detroit's been losing population or staying flat. Michigan's been staying flat for many years. Metro Detroit is stayed flat. Basically, we have the same population now that we did in the 70s. Mm-hmm. What we've been doing hasn't been working and attracting people. And I look at things regionally, not just in the city of Detroit. And if we want to do things different, we have to do different stuff if we want different results. And so I applaud them. I look forward to the results. I know that there will be short-term pain. But even looking at the results of what happened in Detroit over on the Livernois Avenue of Fashion Corridor, once it's done, it's transformative.
It is. And I look forward to seeing the finished product. And I'm really interested in these bus islands. And I want to see what those look like.
Right. I would love to see a future with bus rapid transit or something
Bingo.
more. Right. That would be great to see. But, you got to walk before you run. I will also say, I remember a couple years ago when there was a TV station host, a number of them, who were upset because they had to park a block away from Valentine Vodka to get together. Let me tell you this. Everyone gets born with a pair of Chevrolet legs. It's okay to use them.
That reminds me of the license plate I saw one time. That was No Mo Bus.
I love a good license plate. I love a good custom license plate. That makes me smile.
Me too.
Another piece of news I wanted to touch on is in Planet Detroit. They cover the story that we actually talked about first here on Daily Detroit about the idea that the city of Detroit is looking to close off the canals in East Jefferson. It's often called the Venice of Detroit. If you're not familiar, there are a series of canals right by the Grosse Pointe border that a lot of people really enjoy.
Yeah.
On the other side, they also are part of the drainage system. So when there's a lot of water, they kind of get a little bit higher. Also, the Detroit River has been higher as of late. Some of these things have caused flooding in Jefferson-Chalmers because the Jefferson-Chalmers neighborhood has been declared a FEMA flood zone. Geologically, it's kind of like a little bit of a bowl. And so if you don't have proper flood walls or if you don't have some sort of mitigation to stop the water from coming in, basements flood. There have been some serious issues for it. Right now, homes need to pick up additional insurance in order to get a mortgage in that area. And a number of dollars, federal dollars, grant dollars, other dollars, are being held up because in that FEMA zone, they will not put money. So there's been a big pause put on Jefferson-Chalmers. However, there are a large number of residents who live on those canals who don't want to see the access to be cut off. The city's plan was going to be cut off most of the canals, leave one open with a log feature to open it and close it depending on the river's height. The community came out in a meeting recently very strongly against this. I encourage you to read the whole piece. I'll put it in the show notes. I'm sure we're going to talk more about this. But I wanted to mention it because the individual cost for people to do these, because the city was going to do this at no cost to residents, just part of the thing working with the Army Corps of Engineers. Now that the city is not going to be doing the stop log feature, it's going to be on each individual homeowner with costs of $10,000 to $50,000 to shore up their seawalls. And there's a lot of ups and downs in this. I want to add some context because I've been around a minute. And in the article, and I've done some reporting of my own, like the idea being that there would be maybe a special assessment district so that they were able to raise some money to fix these flood walls, do this individually. The city of Detroit is saying that they're going to do a lot of fines and litigation for property owners who don't fix their flood walls. We've been here before. And I hope that there's a win-win found. But there is a reason why the seawall is so high on the Grosse Pointe side. Even though it's Detroit still there, it's the Grosse Pointe side of that flood wall. And that is because that's the height that they decided to need to make it so that Grosse Pointe Park wasn't that.
Mm-hmm.
Years ago, city residents also vetoed doing some sort of mitigation like this and flood walls. And this is part of why we are where we are today. But it's my true hope that whether it's through a special assessment district or whatever they decide to do, they don't repeat history. Because although there were a lot of community members that came out, historically, there are a lot of people inside of that community that are paying the price for not having those seawalls. So I hope that a comprehensive plan gets put together and quickly to handle this, because there are a lot of homes, not just those who live on the canal structure. And if there is but one break in that seawall, it floods for everybody. Like, I understand all sides of this, but I want to let history warn you that inaction means you'll end up in the same place, and Jefferson Chalmers development will get stalled permanently if action doesn't happen quickly. And so that is my call. I get it, but do something about it. Because if nothing is done, you're going to be in the same place. And if you veto these flood walls and then nothing happens, then that's on you.
I mean, I don't really have much more to say, Jer, but I will say this. Inaction is a form of action.
So I hope that they get it together on this. I really do, because I think there is a middle way, but it's going to take a lot of work and action. Cheyenne, I've got some good news, something to go do.
Oh.
The first in-person Southwest Detroit Run of the Dead is back on Saturday, November 5th, put together by the Southwest Detroit Business Association. It'll be in the morning from 7 a.m. to 12 p.m., starting at the George S. Patton Park Recreation Center. That's over on Woodmere Street in Southwest Detroit. It really celebrates Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead, honoring deceased loved ones. It is a certified 5K and 10K. That'll start at 9 a.m. Food, drinks, entertainment. This is the kind of thing where you can go out and enjoy the city, but also get a little bit of culture, whether you're familiar with it or not. It's something where you can do some learning. And I just wanted to make sure to highlight that it was something that was happening.
I'm glad to see that it's back. I know we used to cover it all the time for something to do around town. And so I'm glad that it's back in person, because I know they've been doing virtual 5 and 10Ks, which it's good.
But it's not the same.
But it's not the same, to be able to run next to people and all that jazz. I'm not a runner, but good on you if you want to join the 5 or 10K. Good job.
Finally, a piece of news that's kind of breaking that I was surprised to see. Now, I think we're going to unpack it more with Devin later this week, because he has a lot of personal experience with this.
Yeah.
But WeWork is pulling out of the space on Cass Avenue in Techtown effective November 10th.
Wow.
That's a bit of a loss, and I'm interested to see how they're readjusting their strategy and get more stuff. But that's something I thought was an interesting piece of information. Cranes Detroit Business first reported it, so I will link to it in the show notes. Any first thoughts, Shy?
I'm kind of bummed, because that was a really nice space. I know.
Beautiful. We went and visited there recently.
Yeah, and I really liked it. I thought it was a really nice space, so I'm bummed to see that it's closing.
I mean, they could give us a retail space. Wouldn't that be amazing? A retail studio for Daily Detroit?
Oh, yeah, that'd be amazing. Beautiful views.
Don't think they will.
No, unfortunately. No. That's okay.
Of course, we'll unpack it more with Devin O'Reilly on Friday. All right, that's it for today's show. If you've got feedback, stories we should cover, thoughts, dailydetroit@gmail.com. With that, I'm Jer Stays.
And I'm Cheyenne Nusserini.
Remember that you are somebody, and we'll see you around Detroit.